think that every single person should be vegan, but it's within their means.
Why not? Who do you think would not be able to go vegan?
So a lot of times, like, the poor can't get certain things. So the poor and sick, it becomes very difficult for them to get certain nutrients.
Okay. Good, man. How are you?
All right.
Good.
You're good.
What can I do you for?
Oh, I just read this. I was just curious.
Oh, nice. Nice.
What caused you to stand out here or sit out here?
Just all of the great reasons to go vegan is very inspiring when you realize how much power each individual has over some of the world's leading problems. Yeah, animal agriculture is leading cause of climate change, deforestation, ocean dead zones, deforestation, species extinction, world starvation is caused primarily by animal agriculture, and all major human health problems globally are caused by the ingestion of these products. So yeah, I just saw so many reasons not to fund this industry anymore. It feels very empowering to know that we can divest from it and reverse climate change, reverse all of these leading health problems. So yeah, I thought, hey, I need to share the word, you know, spread the truth.
Oh, I dig. So do you think that everyone should be vegan, like every single individual?
Absolutely. So veganism by definition just means to reduce the cruelty in your life as much as practically possible. So especially here in first world nations, that's where we are perpetuating most of the world's problems. We're the ones that consume the highest percentage of animal agriculture products, meat, dairy, and eggs. So I think we, of course, should all go vegan, especially in first world countries. That's the least that we can do, is not directly fund death, slaughter, rape, destruction globally. That's the very least. After that, we can then continue to fight for ending the wars, and ending the child slave labor and ending all these other horrible things that we don't fund directly, but we fund indirectly through our lifestyles and our infrastructure and societal habits and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
So, how do you feel about privately owned chickens?
How, what?
Privately owned, chickens, not for sale or anything.
Sure, so they're sentient individuals. They feel pain, suffering, they have families, they feel love. That would be to me asking, how do you feel about privately owned humans? To me, there's no reason. If there's a need for it, then you start to actually get into reasoning. But there's no need for us to enslave the life of another being, a sentient being. So I don't see any reason to. Pets, well, that's a good example. So if you're rescuing an animal, you're giving them food, shelter, and love and freedom, whereas they would have otherwise been in a life of torment and suffering and death. Then yeah, if you're rescuing an animal, that's what animal sanctuaries are, where they take farm animals and they set them free and they let them mind their own business. That's, if you're getting hens from a rescue scenario, if you're buying them from a breeder, then that breeder's just exploiting them, and there's no reason for it. But if you are rescuing a hen and they happen to produce eggs, what happens is that's the hen's period cycle. So imagine if you went up to your sister or your girlfriend or your mom and you took the excretions from her period, and that told her she needed to then have another period. And each time you took her excretions for your consumption, which not only is just weird in concept, but it seems kind of cruel when you know what the woman's body goes through when she has a period. That's what happens to hens. When we take their eggs, we genetically breed them so that their body tells them they need to produce more. And it's just hard on their body. So even if you're rescuing hens, backyard hens, just let them roam free. But yeah, if you're providing an animal food, shelter, and love, that's totally different. That's not seeing them as a resource and exploiting them for a product. That's where you start to cross that moral boundary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was just curious. I'm vegan and
nice, right on.
Huge environmental activist. I was just curious why you're out here.
Excellent. Yeah. Did you see the climate rally here over the weekend? I think it was Friday.
I did not see that.
Okay, yeah. I came around and asked people some questions about a bunch of climate activists about whether they had thought about animal agriculture or going vegan, and none of them had. I mean, there's maybe one or two that were like, yeah, I'm vegan, but you don't need to worry about it for the climate change. I'm like, really? Really, that's concerning, because we need to start just getting people aware of what power they do have over some of the world's leading problems. And we can't be sitting around waiting for a corrupt government to make the world a better place. We can fight for that, but first we need to take personal accountability for our actions. Yeah, it was fun. It was great. A lot of people were open to it.
Yeah. No, I'm glad, because, I don't know, I'm vegan for a lot of the same reasons and everything like that. Well, actually all of the reasons
that
you listed, but...
Nice. When did you go vegan?
So I was vegetarian for 14 years, and I went vegan at the beginning of this year.
Wow, right on. That's crazy how long you were vegetarian. What made you originally go vegetarian?
I can't kill a fly. They've never been able to kill a man. Never been able to do any of that stuff. So.
Yeah.
So I'm a vegetarian. And then as I got older, things progressed. More products became readily available, like not necessarily cheaper, but more options.
Sure, yeah.
And I also had a lot of vegan friends, and I was like, yeah, I've been thinking about it for a couple years, so
Nice.
we can go back.
Good for you, man. Making the world a better place.
But yeah, no, I just whenever I see this, I always like to talk and see. Like,
Yeah,
It's very important to get other people to be vegan.
Totally.
I don't think that every single person should be vegan, but
Okay.
it's within their means.
Why not? Who do you think would not be able to go vegan?
So a lot of times, like, the poor can't get certain things. So the poor and sick, it becomes very difficult for them to get certain nutrients.
Okay.
I think that the rate of consumption is actually the issue. I don't think that consumption overall is an issue. I couldn't do it, but I've seen sick elderly people that I know that want to be vegan, but it's just not within their well-being to do that. Yeah.
Is that a doctor's diagnosis or?
Well, no, not necessarily. Like, my mother's
Okay.
been vegan a couple times in her life, and like recently she also she had some like surgeries and stuff like that, and she couldn't get enough nutrients for like everything was so expensive, so she couldn't afford to be vegan and sustain her body.
What was she shopping for? Are you talking about processed vegan foods, or are you talking about whole foods, plant-based diet?
Whole foods, plant-based diet, and also she had she couldn't afford to cook, and she also couldn't cook so much for herself.
Okay, but she's cooking meat?
She supplements with that because there are certain nutrients that she couldn't get.
She has to cook the meat though, right? In the food prep.
She would buy the prepared things and
Pre-cooked meat?
Yeah, like you can buy like a rotisserie chicken at Costco, stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, filled with grease and fat and all these
for sure.
carcinogens.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plant-based versions where she can get, I'm not sure what nutrients she's getting from the meat when there's so many health risks. And that's gonna be more expensive price per pound per nutrient than eating just plants.
Oh, yeah, no,
You can get a bunch of dry beans, big old pounds of dry beans, for way cheaper than you can get a steak or ground beef or something like that. Yeah, statistically speaking, on average, plants are significantly cheaper than animal animals.
Aware.
Our poorest people actually eat plant-based diets.
But prepared
Falls right off the tree under the ground, whereas you have to harvest an individual's life from birth to, old enough age to cut its throat.
I honestly think that people are the worst thing that ever happened to this planet.
I agree. The most invasive species by far.
That all of us were dead.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like we have potential
have potential.
to. Oh, come on! Look, you're vegan though, so
doesn't mean
people have
nothing,
potential. I don't know, man. If you saw the people I talk to on a daily basis, you might feel different because I honestly felt the same way you did a few years ago, and then I started engaging, and people started opening their minds.
We talk about sustainability, and sustainability is a farce. Actually, what are we trying to sustain?
The planet's ecosystem.
Are we really trying to sustain the planet's ecosystem? Or are we trying to
by being vegan, we are
ourselves in the planet's ecosystem?
Well, it's a little bit of both. So there is a symbiosis of life that has evolved on this planet. Now, we know vegetation provides for the organisms around it. That's what it's designed to do. It actually thrives on us harvesting it. Now, there's problems with our current infrastructure. Monocropping isn't good, but we found that veganic permaculture farming is actually.
Hey guys, Jackson here. So unfortunately, I don't have the last few minutes of this conversation. The battery on my camera died. I do keep a backup battery, but I didn't even notice it was already draining. It's supposed to last me a couple hours. I feel like I wasn't running it for that long. Not sure what happened there, but somehow my battery got drained quicker than I expected, and I totally missed it. Sorry about that, guys. But just so you know, the last couple minutes of this conversation, this guy was talking about how humans should just all die off because we are innately destructive and evil. And I went into the science behind how humans are actually innately altruistic. Talked about how when you put a baby in a crib with a rabbit and an apple, they play with the rabbit and they eat the apple, not the other way around. They don't try to rip into the flesh of a live rabbit and then play with the apple. And there are other studies that show humans are born vegan. We're born compassionate. We don't want to go around murdering each other. I mean, come on, look around you. And in this advanced society, you really think that we could have evolved this far if we were innately self-destructive? No, of course not. But he had a hard time absorbing some of that information. pushed back quite a bit, said that he was a firm believer, even as a vegan, he believes that humans are innately murderous and evil. So that's a bummer to hear. You know, I used to feel the same way a few years ago. It's depressing when you look around you at the world that we're living in. It's easy to quickly assume, yes, humans are nothing but greedy, murderous jagoffs. But in reality, the 90 to 99% of us down here at the grassroots, we don't press the button to send these nukes or these bombs off to murder innocent women and children overseas. It's the elite few that do this. It's the top 1 to 10% that govern our livelihood all around the world that indoctrinate us into self-destructive societal habits. And that's what we call a sociopath. And that makes sense that about 1 to 10% of the human population, statistically speaking, is going to be sociopathic. They're going to have a genetic predisposition or environmentally groomed or combination of the two to be destructive, to be evil, to have no empathy. And we look at the criminal justice system and we can't account for that 1 to 10% of sociopaths that should statistically exist in our society. Rather, we look at the top 1 to 10% who are in power and we realize, oh my gosh, those are, by textbook definition, total sociopaths. So we have to realize our true potential, that we are innately compassionate and cooperative. We want to coexist with one another. We don't just go around murdering each other. And he brings up a social contract, that the only reason we're not running around stabbing each other in the face all the time is because we've established a social contract. But part of that is sort of true. We establish these social contracts out of morality, out of a shared genetic moral compass where we all agree, no, we don't need to needlessly rape and kill each other all the time. And that's not to say that laws dictate what is moral to us. Rather, laws catch up eventually with what we feel to be moral. Just like in the times of slavery or when we were abusing women, it's because we were indoctrinated to think that that was an okay thing to do. When the masses finally spoke up and hit the streets and demanded that our laws reflect what is actually moral, we abolished those things. We got rid of slavery. We got rid of abusing women. We gave them equality. And that's what we're going to see. That's what we are seeing right now, a move toward a world of veganism, a world of true compassion. So hopefully he absorbed some of that information. He was really nice. He said he might come back and chat with me another time. But he did take a card, and hopefully he's going to look into some of the ethical resources that I have on there that'll guide him to the truth, to the fact that humans as a whole are primarily compassionate. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. See you next time.